Every single film to me is like a textbook. I think film is the glue that we need to really transform our society. My name is Akley, and this is my story. I grew up in St. Vincent in Arnisville, Upper Cane Hall. I'm known for making films. Not a lot of people right now know about my paintings. When I do bring them out, people are sometimes surprised. But anybody who knows me well knows that my whole journey started with, drawing and painting. As a child, I and my family discovered I was really good at drawing. From that young, tender age, they started to encourage me by, just by making sure I had art supplies, and when I would do my drawings, they would sometimes stick it up on the walls in the house, and little by little it just made me confident in this thing I could do. And as I grew, became a young man, I look across my society. There came a time when you had to figure out or choose what would be your profession, and I didn't really see much people from St. Vincent, from our community, who are creatives, who are artists, and actively making a living from it. So I sort of like set out on a journey to solve that problem through my life. In my own way, I maximized the resources that St. Vincent had when it comes to visual arts, in that I did it all through secondary school. Well, as much as I could in primary school. I did it at community college. Our society wasn't one that really made it obvious that you could be a creative and be a professional creative. As a youth man growing up in St. Vincent, even though I know I had a talent, I wasn't 100% committed, or I didn't 100% believe in it, So during my time as a youth man in school, it was in Miss Vonnie Rudet's class when I discovered that like art, like drawing, painting, and the way how you encode information through drawing and painting, that is the foundation for all the arts. So after I started to learn like composition for paintings, I started to practice the same thing in photography, and same thing in graphic design. And in a kind of a way, that opened me up to filmmaking, because the truth is, like I told you, I was very serious about my creative abilities, but I didn't think I could make a profession from it as of inception. And film too kind of forced me to see that, well, you could combine things, because film is like, there's the creative part, but there's also a strong technical part, and then there's a business part, where you have to learn how to make deals, how to deal with contracts, how to manage a crew, how to manage a budget, And yeah, I feel like filmmaking allowed me to kind of bring all the different pieces of things that I was interested in into one. I got a scholarship to go to University of the West Indies. The scholarship was funded by a gentleman called Felix Dennis, who is one of these millionaire people who live in Mustique. But I met Mr. Dennis, and I got the scholarship at the suggestion and under the advice of former Governor General Sir Frederick Ballantyne. He also was a big motivator, somebody who encouraged me a lot. After we finished college, community college, also, I have to mention, I was a student of Vonnie Rudet, who taught the art and design program at community college. And I feel in that space, I really started to see and understand how to turn this talent into a skill, how to develop it, how to look at references, how to, look at the masters and try to imitate them. All of that I learned at college. And Vonnie also exposed me to organizing art exhibitions. And it was at one of those art exhibitions that I met Sir Frederick Ballantyne. Yeah, at that point in time, I was confronted with a kind of reality, and I just decided to if all of these people are willing to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in enabling me because they see potential, why should I continue to question, this potential? And I just ran with it, and I never looked back. From there, from the time I had the camera in my hand, I just continued. I went to another school, a school in Cuba, where I learned how to be a professional cinematographer. And through that and through the network at UE, I developed relationships with my lecturers and people who I met on the way. I started doing a lot of music videos, and I made attempts at making my own short films and documentaries, and then they started to move across the Caribbean and then across the world. And I guess that is like the snapshot of how I became a filmmaker. But the films that I've made mostly go to audiences outside of St. Vincent, and it's not because I choose to make films for the white people them. I made the films to confront things in our community, things I think point to colonialism and the stronghold that colonialism still has on us. And I made it to point it out, to educate our people. And the truth is, our people don't really pay attention to these films, but people outside of St. Vincent started to see, you know, the value, the potential, and a lot of crazy things have happened. I've traveled to at least 4 continents, making films and developing films, working as crew on other people's productions. Also got opportunities to go and exhibit my films in cinemas in Europe, in North America. Well, I didn't really screen any in Africa in person, but the films went and I showed up on Zoom, you know. But I did go to Ghana as part of a documentary production team. I was the DP, or one of the DPs. And yeah, just holding on to this camera, I've managed to not only create a name for myself, but a life, income, and also opportunities for other people. You know, just, you know, believing in my talent, applying what I learned at school, and then, you know, just being relentless in terms of like figuring out how to really make this a possibility from St. Vincent. Because the truth is, I've been to lots and lots of places and had lots of opportunities to migrate. Some of the times I almost stay, but there's just something that always brings me back home, you know, because I'm not gonna be satisfied until St. Vincent get it, until my people get it. Because as much as I appreciate the trips and the accolades and the traveling and the thing, I don't really feel successful until the information in my films are accessible and important to my community. Because it's where I'm making it for, you know. It's not for the white people then. For the meantime, I'll take the economic, whatever pittance I get from the overseas people, and I'll funnel it back into developing more films for us, about us. The most challenging part of my journey as a filmmaker, right, as a Black independent filmmaker, the most challenging part and the part that gives me the most opportunity is the mere fact that I am Vincentian. Our cultural and creative industries are far from where they could be, and they are in dire need of development. And for a long time, people didn't really believe in my skill set or the skill set of local people. They would say, boy, if we need a professional commercial, you know, we would send for somebody from Trinidad or send for somebody from Jamaica or Barbados. And even up to now, the higher end video productions, you know, it's foreign crew that's coming. And I could tell you this because I'm now the guy who they would call to hook up the place or to help them figure out certain logistics. And up to now, few people really see how to leverage, you know, our culture, cameras, cinema, filmmaking, and make like a real business out of it. Few people on the island know how to do that. And it's even now that I have accolades and I've been overseas and do all kind of things, and I get funding from major organizations like UNESCO, like Hulu, you know, even though all of those things have happened, the community buy-in from in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is still super low. You know, in terms of like people really coming on board and saying, yeah, there's a potential here and we should invest in this. Sometimes people say it in terms of like, as a kind of principle or like a dream, or say it, yeah, it would be cool. But the actual, you know, put energy and resources behind it, it's not happening. The other part of the challenge that is the great opportunity is the, yo, we have so much wealth here when it comes to like creative resource. Like just right here, the first breadfruit was planted in the Caribbean, was planted in St. Vincent. That's a powerful story. That's a story about food security. That's a story about legacy, a story about health, and that is highly fundable. But where is the Vincentian in the community developing a project about that? And that's just one example. We have the Garifuna. We have this 9 steps place that we're sitting on. Like this is actual colonial stones that built the steps. And you know, there's so many things we could do in St. Vincent when it comes to what makes up our identity and what is our heritage that you could pull from And that's the opportunity there that I see, that I can't walk away from. Cinema, as in itself, filmmaking, is about 120 years old. Every single film to me is like a textbook. So I would watch the film and I would try to understand the shots, try to understand the kind of storytelling they use, like, you know, how they decided to tell the story, the sound. You know, every film is a reference for me. And at the point you just start to like see them as tools, you know, as like little bits of tools that you could use to help to express yourself. We really should find a way to invest in our community and invest in our culture and put our culture on the highest platforms, right? And not wait for people to do it for us. One of the greatest Caribbean films out there is Harder They Come, Harder They Fall. You know, amazing film. The way how it was done is more or less simple in terms of production costs. You know, no crazy camera tricks or nothing inside of there. And it unfolded in a community like ours, in a society like ours with similar resources and challenges. And it's beautiful. And it clearly helped to define what the Caribbean is. I mean, there are lots of other films, but the films that I really enjoy are the films from our region. The last documentary I really loved was this one called I Am Not Your Negro by Raoul Peck. Raoul Peck is a Haitian filmmaker who is amazing in terms of like what he was able to do and the kind of films he make. You know, it's films that make people think about, and it's films about the reality in Black societies and societies like ours. Raoul Peck is a Haitian, and at this point he's made films for HBO, for some of the biggest platforms. He actually migrated to Germany to continue his filmmaking. You know, like, I'm not a director who's gonna sit in a chair and say, oh, give me a shot there, or, you know, I'm not that kind of director. I'm the director down in the streets with the camera in my hand, talking to people and, you know, and capturing like raw reality. That's the kind of directing I enjoy the most. I mostly focus on documentaries, or at the moment I've been focusing on documentaries. Yeah, just because I'm so interested in education. I'm interested in unraveling some of the histories of St. Vincent, some of my own history, you know, and that's the reason why as a director I've been focusing on documentaries. But when it comes to like the projects I envision and then I make, I guess the one that's kind of trending right now is this one I call Madulu the Seaman. It exists in the world of whaling and whale hunting, but it's more about the tradition dying out, the older generation trying to share with the younger generation, you know, like the lifestyle and the value and the importance of what it was then, and kind of seeing the younger generation reject it and say, well, we're not interested in that, and we're using the beach in a different way now. You know, it's we're not hunting whales, we're playing football. And it's an interesting film because it also touches on some of the the maritime musical heritage of St. Vincent. And when I say that, I'm speaking about a genre of music called sea shanty, which is maritime walking songs. You know, like how in the movies about colonialism, you would have the slaves in the field and they'll be singing. Or in the American chain gang prison movies, you'd have the workers, you know, walking on the railroad and singing. Well, the people in Barley did something similar to that. When they have to heave the whale onto the shore, they would sing a particular song. When the whaler men were out, you know, out on the horizon and they have 5, 6 pilot whales strapped and they need a little help because they had to row it in physically, there was no engine, they would sing a particular song, and everybody on the shore in Barley gonna know that song mean we catch whale. And then somebody go come ahead with a rope, bring it to shore, and then the people on shore would start heaving, you know, and it was like a community experience. So there's a whole genre of music called sea shanty that not a lot of us know about. I mean, I found out about it, you know, through the process of making the film. I actually started to make the film when I found out about it because I'd never known, you know, I'd never known. And there was an old gentleman living in the village called George Frederick. Everybody knew him as Tall 12. And I was introduced to him by Mr. Reed, by Omari France, and by Carlita Daniel, who you know, are people in the community who are in tune to these things. And I met him, we had a conversation, and at the end of it, I just felt like there was so much more that we could do with this thing. But I also make fiction films, and some of them have gone to festivals as well. They're shorter because, you know, with fiction you require people and space and a little bit more budget than documentary. I would say for the past 10 years, cameras have gotten more accessible, better, and actually cheaper, right? Before, the kind of cameras you needed to make the images I make would cost hundreds and thousands of dollars, and somebody like me wouldn't even have access to it. But now, you know, people have cameras all in their glasses. You know, your cell phone is sometimes enough to make high quality image and high quality audio if you really know how to, like, you know, how to use it. And there's lots of, and then there's the internet. You know, a big part of how I network is through the internet, through social media, you know, through emailing and connecting with people. And all of that we have at our disposal. And right now, it's better than it was 10 years ago. You know, I started 10 years ago. So you could imagine right now, things are very accessible. There's even a new thing right now that Vincentians could use if they're into filmmaking, which is the AI, you know, the creative AI, where you could literally visualize your idea, turn it in, you know, have some text, and you could put it in one of these AI machines and it would generate clips. And then you could piece those clips together, you know? So I think if you're really, really interested in filmmaking, right now as a Vincentian, I feel like you have good opportunity. Outside of St. Vincent, there are also lots of programs out there, funding programs, development programs, even scholarships, where they're interested in enabling people from our community in doing filmmaking and in exploring, you know, like the media arts. You know, it's an interesting thing when you have an idea and you put it in a painting or in some medium, and then you watch people understand what you were trying to say or what you're communicating. Like that process, it does give me goosebumps, because it lets me know that, you know, one, the ideas that I have are potent and that they are in their own way kind of like universal, and two, because people are relating to it, it means that that's valuable content, and that's content that people might even be willing to pay for. I think film is the glue that we need to really transform our society. I think not just film, but the creative arts, right? The whole scope of cultural and creative industries. And I say so because, like I said, we have all of these potent aspects of what makes up our cultural identity. And if we're able to turn those into paintings, into graphic designs, into movies, into books, into songs, yo, like, we'll be able to do so much with that. And then if we're able to combine those films, those books, those movies, those stories, right, with the products that we produce in St. Vincent, like, anybody from any part of the world will buy into it. I mean, if you don't believe me, just go back on your timeline and scroll back to when I Show Speed visited St. Vincent, and look at the things that were exposed to him and see how much the world is talking about them now. But the problem is, we have a model where we wait for the next I Show Speed to come true, and we're not creating one from inside, you know, to carry the things out there. We're not using those from inside to package what we have already. We still have this colonial mindset where we think somebody gonna come from outside and save us. Yeah, I definitely think St. Vincent and the Grenadines has this really amazing potential in the cultural and creative industries. And I have given my life and my journey as a testament to seeing it, exposing it, and exploiting it, because that's what you need to do. I'm definitely going to advocate for more people to come on board and to support the creatives in the community. You know, when you see people trying, I implore you and I encourage you to support them, because like I say, I didn't necessarily set out on this journey to get the attention of the people overseas. I did it to inform my community. But I also know that my community is powerful. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a part of a universal global network. And I definitely feel if our people, if you guys started to endorse and share my work, I would go even further, you know? I believe that St. Vincent, like I say, we are a global community. We live here, but we have relatives and friends and family in every corner of the world. Like, wherever you go, you're going to run into a Vincentian. And if you guys could just, like I say, support the work and share it along the networks, it will take things even further.